Welcome to this presentation about OpenMandriva LX called Right Up Front. It will hopefully tell you all you need to know about the OpenMandriva distribution, its work and aims. OpenMandriva, what is it? Who started it? OpenMandriva LX is an RPM-based distribution with its roots in Gail Duval's Mandrake Linux, which eventually became Mandriva. When Mandriva closed its doors, the OpenMandriva Association was formed as a charitable body charged with continuing the work of Mandrake Mandriva in the open source arena. We have continued to produce new releases of OpenMandriva since 2013. Why are we different? What is it about OpenMandriva that makes it different from other Linux distributions? Probably the most radical aspect of the distribution is the fact that all the main packages, including the kernel, are compiled using the Clang compiler and linker, which is based on the LLVM compiler infrastructure project. The advantage of Clang is that it is far more adaptable to new architectures. We take advantage of this to create builds for multiple platforms. Currently we have 5 completed or in progress. In addition to the classic x86-64, we provide builds for the up-and-coming ARM Arch 64 and ARM v7 processors, a ZNVer1 build that enhances the speed of the AMD Ryzen processors, and there's an ongoing RISC-64 build. We even have a build for the Pine phone. Our repositories. The distribution is maintained in 3 repositories. Rock, the stable branch, is created at release and is only subject to minor updates. This repository is intended for those who use a Linux distribution in their daily work and thus require the best possible stability. Updates to this repo are usually the kernel and hardware drivers where appropriate, and when needed, minor bug fixes or updates. For the more adventurous, we provide a rolling repository. This can be seen as a stable development branch. Rolling receives regular updates to the entire software stack during the lifespan of the Rock release. The repository is largely stable but may suffer occasional issues during major updates. Users of this repo should keep in touch with our forums or IRC channels. The IRC channels are bridged to riot.im, where major updates are flagged. This will ensure that the update process takes place only when any major changes have been completed. The source of the updates is our 3rd repository, Cooker. This is where the development of OpenMandriva takes place. This is an unstable repository and can be broken at any time. Anyone may run it, but you must be prepared for breakage. The source of the updates is our 3rd repository, Cooker. This is where the development of OpenMandriva takes place. This is an unstable repository and can be broken at any time. Anyone may run it, but you must be prepared for breakage. That said, it does not often occur. When, after a development campaign, the Cooker repository is considered stable, it is copied to Rock, and after testing and debugging, released. Then the next development cycle begins in Cooker. At this point, all 3 repositories contain the same code. Cooker and rolling slowly diverge from Rock as development progresses towards the next release. Our other repositories: unsupported, restricted, and non-free. Within the main repositories there are other sub-repositories, the major ones being restricted, non-free, and unsupported. The restricted repository contains open source software that incorporates components that may have issues in some countries for legal reasons. this repository is maintained. The non-free repository contains software which does not comply to open source principles, for example NVIDIA graphics drivers. Software in this repository is maintained on a volunteer basis and may lag kernel releases in the case of drivers, or may not be at the latest release for other software. The unsupported repository contains the original contrib package set from OpenMandriva. The unsupported repo is an absorbing resource as it contains many interesting and obscure packages and is to some extent a history of open source software. This repo is a great place for fledgling package builders to cut their teeth in the art of software building and packaging. Packages in this repository are rebuilt before each release. However, they are not actively maintained, except by those who use specific packages from the repository. For developers and packagers. Development takes place in Cooker. New packages are created or updated and built on our own infrastructure called ABF, Automated Build Farm. The build farm is, we think, unique in that it uses a distributed modular approach to building packages. The structure is such that there is a core controller which distributes jobs to build nodes. These build nodes can be situated anywhere on the internet, which means anyone with an internet connection can provide computing power to the core network. This helps greatly when we rebuild the thousands of packages in the Cooker repo in preparation for a new release. The builders are based on the Docker technology, which means that new nodes are easily built and connected. Our packaging code is stored and retrieved from Git repositories, which are hosted on GitHub. The Docker builders directly access GitHub for package build code. The network is completed with the ABF file store, which serves the package source code to the builder. When building is finished, packages are published directly to the main repository. Anyone may open an account on ABF and create packages in their own personal repositories. Those wishing to build packages for the main repositories should join our IRC group, #OpenMandriva-Cooker at freenode.net, and speak to a developer there. This group is set up automatically when starting the Conversation IRC app. If you join our forums, you may put in a request for your IRC nick to be connected to matrix.org. In this way, you may use a matrix client, Element, NeoJat, etc., to keep a record of the OpenMandriva channels, even when you are disconnected from IRC. So, what's in it for you? Here are some screenshots of some of the features available from the OpenMandriva desktop. We provide 3 utilities to allow you to configure your system: the OpenMandriva Welcome app, OM Control Center, and the OM Software Repository Chooser. These 3 applications will allow you to configure your system to your liking. We offer 2 package managers for you to choose from: Discover and DNF Dragora. Discover has the capability of installing package types other than RPM. 2 different program launchers are available: a compact version, shown in this shot, or a full-screen version with widget support. As you can see, there are a plethora of widgets available for you to customize your desktop. For the developer, there is now the ability to have multiple console instances side by side in a single window. It's possible to split each console instance multiple times. So, what do we offer you? The KDE Plasma desktop with all its bells and whistles, a clean, modern, elegantly styled desktop, which is fast and stable and a joy to use. an x86-64 OS which supports Wine32 and Steam for gaming, as well as legacy applications. A choice of upgrade path, a stable repository or a rolling one which contains all the latest releases, and for those who like to live at the edge, the Cooker development repository. A multiple choice of hardware platform, x86-64 with x86 support, ZenVer1 for the AMD Ryzen, ARMArch 64, Raspberry Pi 3B, Raspberry Pi 4B, Rock 4C, Pinebook Pro, and Pinebook. A friendly and welcoming developer community in which it is easy to participate, whatever the level of your skill. Access to an advanced build environment where you can generate your own packages or work on the main distribution. For users, a discourse forum where like-minded people can meet and become friends. Most of all, we are committed to continuing the tradition of free and open software upon which Gail Duval founded the Mandrake Linux distribution. So, where can you get OpenMandriva Linux? You may download our 4.2 release ISOs when announced from the link below. Also available is the Edu ISO, which is the release ISO with additional educational packages. A lightweight alternative desktop, LXQT, built with the same core libraries, is also provided. Other popular desktops are available as community-built ISOs. For links to these, please inquire on our forums. Torrent links for the ISO will be available at SourceForge on the release date. Residing in subfolders of the main directory, you will find images for the Arch 64, PinePhone, Pinebook Pro, Rock Pi 4C, Raspberry Pi 3B, and Raspberry Pi 4B. These images come with install scripts and installation instructions and give you all that's needed to create a working system. The future. Our next milestone is OpenMandriva LX5, which will bring many improvements to the core system, such as making cross-compiling and targeting multiple architectures easier than ever. This will involve a restructuring of the file system, but will allow for some very radical cross-architecture builds. Running Wine on ARM? Well, just maybe. We will continue progress on the modernization of our Python stack so that Python 2.7 can be dropped. Java will receive some attention too. Any Java packages out there? We could use some extra help with this. The availability of development boards supporting the RISC v64 process will allow us to refocus more on this repository, as it will soon be possible to build and test on real hardware. Our mission: to nurture and sustain a community of users and developers so as to pass on the principles and skills of the open source movement and to encourage their expression through OpenMandriva LX. To be sure that we encourage new users into the world of open source operating systems by providing help and support, and to make it possible to run such systems on low power, affordable hardware to open the world of computing to all. To ensure that we remain alert to new innovations within the field of computer science and properly implement those innovations that advance the quality of OpenMandriva without compromise to its ease of operation. We hope that our presentation has given you a helpful insight into our work and that it will encourage you to join us. Thank you for watching. The unsupported repository contains the original contrib package set from Mandriva. This unsupported repo is an absorbing resource as it contains many interesting and obscure packages and is to some extent a history of open source software. This is a great place for fledgling package builders to cut their teeth in the art of software building and packaging. Packages in this repository are rebuilt before each release. However, they are not actively maintained except by those who use specific packages from the repository. For developers and packages, take 3. For developers and packages, take 4. For developers and packages,